Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Three Girls, One Monthly Catch Up, where we will be sharing with each other and with you all what we each were up to in the previous month. I know that for my part, I'm codependent and rely on these two to keep me
Mhm.
accountable, to provide these updates. So that's one thing that these interactions are good for, to do it together every month. So we have our usual categories, and we will be starting off with sharing the tarot and oracle decks that we used in the month of August. So Heather will go first.
I should be very quick this time because I am in a little bit of a tarot slump right
Mhm,
now. And
mhm,
so I've not really done much taroting at all of any
mm,
kind. But
mhm,
I have had out for the whole month my This Might Hurt tarot. I'm really sorry,
mhm,
the light is rubbish. But
mhm,
which is, again, and I feel like I say this every month now, but I'm in my what decks do I have on my in my collection that are easy and that I just can work with without too much stress or hassle, and I can just pull them out and play with them. And if I use them, great, and if I don't, great. And I have been using it, but I've been like where normally I'm really I do readings and I journal my readings and I take pictures and blah blah
mhm,
blah. I've literally just been pulling it out, shuffling, asking it a question, putting down 3 cards and just reading it to myself and then putting it away again. I'm not
mhm,
writing it down
mhm,
anywhere. I'm not, like, really deep diving with it or anything. I'm just I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm just really
A slump. It
in a
Yeah, I
happens.
funk. Yeah.
think it's
Mhm,
natural.
mhm,
Everybody goes
totally.
through that. Yeah.
Mhm,
Yeah. I'm hoping I've got some, like, decks that I'm waiting for, like Kickstarter decks and stuff. So I'm hoping when I get new decks in, that will,
yeah. Mhm,
cheer me up and be like, "Oh, yeah, I wanna play with these new things."
mhm, mhm,
But yeah, so really quick, but
mhm.
that was me in August for tarot.
So I'm gonna be pretty quick too because, I already talked about these decks in our last, monthly catch up. I had spent the second half of July with these decks, and then I spent the entirety of August with the same decks. So the deck, for tarot that I've been using is the Good Fortune Tarot, which I have been as you can imagine by the fact that I've been using it for a month and a half. I really, really enjoy this deck a lot, and I think the artwork is beautiful, and I had a really nice time working with it. Although I will admit that I actually did, in, like, the last week of August, go through a little bit of a tarot slump too, where I just kinda, like, fell off on the whole daily draw thing and just kinda, like so I am looking for like, I've started with my new decks for the month of, September, and I'm excited to be working with something new because I did spend quite a long time with these, but it's a great deck, it's got a good guidebook, the artwork is lovely, and it's got really nice takes on all of the cards. There's some in addition to the sort of, like, typical Rider-Waite-Smith meaning there's more interesting stuff going on in the cards in addition to that, and it's just they're lovely. It's a lovely deck. And then from an oracle standpoint, again, same as what I was doing last month. I have been working with the Seashell Oracle, and this again, it's been a nice deck to use for the summer. It's just a great little deck. It's got really good keywords. The artwork is beautiful. It pairs very nicely with the Good Fortune Tarot, even though they aren't, like, on the same theme or anything like that. They look very nice together. And yeah, it's been a really nice experience. But like I said, I am ready to be done with these, so and put them away for a while and have fun with them again sometime in the future when I decide to pull them back out again. But it's been a really nice month and a half with these two lovely decks. So that's it for me.
Sarah,
Yeah.
the last tarot card you showed with the
Uh-huh.
dancing skeleton, is that the death card? Or
Yes. Yes.
that is a very cool death card.
Isn't it cool?
Yeah,
Let's find it again. Isn't that awesome?
yeah, I like that a
That's
lot.
really yeah, I do too. It's really awesome, and there's like an egg, like a glowing golden egg inside the rib cage.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
I see that.
So
yeah,
it's a really, really cool death card. I love the illustrations in the Good
hmm.
Fortune Tarot. Like, it's a really cool deck. So
I might have to consider that just on the basis
Mhm.
death card because I
Yeah,
really like that.
honestly, and it's mass market, and it is
Exactly.
linen. That is the one thing I will say, Heather. I know you don't like linen, and it is linen, but it's not like a super obtrusive linen texture. Um, it's just it's a pretty subtle linen texture in my opinion, and it's just I mean,
I
like
really
it's
linen is growing on me because I like the
Mhm,
feel of it and I like
mhm,
the way that it shuffles. I
mhm.
just don't like being able to see all the lines
Cross-hatching,
on
yeah.
and the
Mm,
cross hatching on
Mhm.
the front. Like some
mhm.
artwork it works with and some artwork I'm like, that really bothers me.
It is pretty unobtrusive in this deck. It's not a super in your face linen texture. It's quite subtle. I feel like you'd like this one. I have just thoroughly enjoyed working with it. I
Mm.
think it's a great deck. And I have a bag because there's bees all over
Perfect.
this deck.
I
Yeah,
So
have that bag.
what?
that's perfect.
I have that exact bag.
Oh, you do have
I
that.
do have that bag.
You do have that one, don't you?
Okay, so I did work with a few decks. One being, which I mentioned this, I think, in the last monthly catch up, the Gentle Tarot.
Mhm.
Um, I continued working with this along with the Seashell Oracle for like a good. Actually, this one I worked with like the entire month. The Seashell Oracle, because I'd worked with it the previous month,
Mhm,
I worked with it for like the first half of the month. But yeah, um, I really enjoyed this deck. It is, as its name says, it has a very kind of gentle feel to it.
mhm,
And I also think that the guidebook is really well written. I think one of the strengths of the guidebook, at least for me, is just kind of learning like how the creator was inspired with these images and why she chose the certain creatures, the animals that she would choose, or the depiction. So that's really nice. And another thing that I really liked is that with just a lot of the imagery in the suits, especially like in the minors, you get like not just the focal element, but like other elements that just come together nicely. So you don't lose the focus of like the main element
mhm,
that the suit is depicting, that the card is depicting, but you just get all of the other you know the other nice facets that just come together to complement
mhm.
and strengthen the message. I also worked with the Shadowscapes. And so this is the copy that I worked with. And so basically I have the Czech version. The Czech version I think is easier to see the details than like the English language version.
Mhm.
But in the last couple of years, I feel like my eyesight has further deteriorated. So then I actually decided to just make my own enlarged copy
Mhm.
because that's what I do. Like,
'Cause that's what you do, yeah. This thing
that's,
doesn't work the way I want it to. I'm just gonna make my own thing instead.
yeah, it is just handmade. And so you can just see just for like size comparison.
Mhm.
So
Oh, nice.
that's how much bigger.
Oh.
And I
Oh.
also pumped up the saturation.
Oh.
So this works for me.
What did you print it on?
Well, it's a thicker cardstock paper that I actually use for coloring
Oh.
because it has teeth on it, which makes it grip like,
Mm, mhm,
colors better. So
Mhm,
when I do coloring pages, sometimes I'll scan the coloring page, shrink it down so that it'll fit my journal, and then
mhm.
print it out on this paper so
Oh.
that I can color on it and then stick it in my journal. So I just use that paper. It's what I had, and it holds the printer ink color very
Mhm.
nice.
So did you do what you just scanned it in and then enlarged it and played with the saturation or
So actually, when I had the English language version, I did not know that there were 2 options, that you could get just the deck or, like, the kit that came
Mhm.
with, like, the larger companion book. So
Oh,
I
okay,
just ended up getting the English language, like, or just the deck
just the
without
deck,
the book.
mhm.
So then after the fact, I went and, purchased the app,
Mm,
which has, like, these, full colored
Mhm,
renditions plus, like, the entire text. So
mhm.
what I ended up doing was I just, took screen grabs of the app images because they were
okay.
super
Oh.
clear, and
Yeah,
that's
that's a
what
good
I
idea.
used, and then printed it out that way. Prior to printing out, like I said, I bumped up the saturation
Mhm.
because I feel like that helps a lot as well.
Mm, mhm.
So so yeah, that this is what I used.
Mhm.
It's because it's bendy, you know,
Yeah.
it's I can shuffle it decently.
I was just gonna ask you how you're shuffling it with
I
it,
mean,
yeah.
I'm doing, like, what I call, a sloppy overhand, but
Mm.
then also using dice. I have been using dice,
Mhm.
and of course, it comes in this lovely I bought this bag specifically because, I mean, come on, like, doesn't that look gorgeous together from
Yeah, oh, yeah.
LaValle Boutique? Perfect fit. And then the other one that I used, tarot-wise is the Fairy Tarot, um, because it's summery, it's a lot of fun, and I did a VR to the blind ranking tag that's out, and this is one that Matt had chosen. And so after that video, I'm like, I want to work with this deck actually. It's been a while, so I started working with this, and actually, it got to a point where I had all 3 of the tarot decks out together, and what I would do is just, like, pull from one deck, and then just pull the same cards from the other 2 to compare the images. So it's just a fun and easy way for me to work with more than one deck, and not really put any pressure on that, just to compare images. I think it's a lot of fun to do that. And then the only other deck that wasn't tarot that I worked with is the Align Heart affirmations deck that I got recently off the Kickstarter campaign. So this is the revised version that has the black text.
Mhm.
Mm.
So it is easier for the camera to pick up.
Yeah, and even with the black text, you can see the heart, the
Yeah.
bit that you 'cause you can when you show yours, Sarah, you can never see them.
Mhm.
Mm, mhm.
Like, it just because of the white text, it just doesn't show up, but it's
Mhm.
really noticeable with the black text.
Yeah.
On camera, I'm sure in person they
And
both work
Yeah.
perfectly well, but I
exactly.
find just on camera it makes a difference.
Yeah. So this was a good time. I worked with this a few weeks, and all I did was just pull one card a week
Mhm.
and just let that sit on my reading table. On to the next category of books. Heather, what have you?
Okay. So I think I read 7 books
Mhm.
in August, but some of them were just I mean, they were just okay. They weren't books that I really would talk about, but I did read so I read a non-fiction in August. I read It Came from the Closet, which is a collection of essays by queer just not they're not necessarily writers, but just different queer people.
Mhm.
And the book is all of the essays are about the relationship between the horror industry and the queer community, and how sometimes they complement each other and sometimes they butt heads. And
Mhm.
each essay, the person picked a film that was like foundational in their queer experience in some way, and
Mhm.
then talked about the film and how it related to that experience. It was really good, really good. I audio read it, and it was great. It was a great one for like listening to an essay while I was doing dishes and pottering about the house and stuff.
Mhm.
I thought it was great. Some, as is always the way with a collection of essays, some I enjoyed more than others. Some of them I was like, I don't know that film, and also I cannot relate to your experience in the way that you're telling it and how it relates
Mhm.
to that film at all. But there was never a moment where I was like, I don't care about this essay. I really thought every single one was valid and
Mhm.
had a place. And then I read some short stories, another collection of short stories. I'm on a short story roll this year.
Nice.
But I read The Paper Menagerie and Other Stories by Ken Liu.
Mhm.
This has been my favorite short story collection so far. This was really good. I enjoyed every single story in this book. Some, again, more than others, but there was like 4 or 5. So there's 15 stories in total, and I think I would have given 5 of them 5 stars. And he has this really great way of telling a story where you're just like, you're bimbling along and you're like, okay, this is nice, like slice of life, following people around on their little journey that they're telling us about. And then the end, like it just is gut punching. Like, it's genuinely like gut punching, and you don't see it coming. But then when you think about it, it was the only direction the story could have gone in,
Mhm.
and it made me cry.
Mhm.
It was so good. Like, it's really interesting for me because it's made me think more about the difference between a short story and like a novella or a novel,
Mhm.
and that it's
Mhm.
not, you can't just, like, when you're right, he clearly hasn't just taken a story and tried to make it shorter.
Right.
It's very specific in the way that he chooses to tell the story and the way that it's paced,
Mhm.
and it was just so good. It was genuinely the best short story collection I've ever read, which, bear in mind when I say that I've only ever read 4 short story collections, including this one. And then I also finished, The Way of Kings. This was I mean, it's so it is long, and it is, it's like 1,200 pages, so it is long, and there is, like, it is a slow build of a book, which is my thing. I love that. I love slow build books. But if you're somebody who wants action straight out the gate and stuff to happen, it's probably not going to be for you, because most of the action happens in the last like 200-300 pages,
My gosh.
and the rest of it is like building up these characters, because so the Stormlight Archives is a 10, it's going to be a 10 book series,
Mm.
but it's 2 different arcs. With something like this, you'll follow the same characters throughout. It's, the first book is always a bit like that. It's always a bit like building up the world and stuff. And one of the things that Sanderson does really well, that I really love, and other people have said, there's too much, it would have cut it down if he'd cut it all out, was the way that he world builds.
Mhm.
He doesn't, it's not exposition, but he's very descriptive about the very small details of the
Mhm.
world that he's building, so that
Mhm.
by the time you get towards the end of the book, you're so immersed in this world.
Mhm.
And it's simple things like the way that plants grow and the way that plants react to the weather. And
Mhm.
in this one, they've got different coloured wines, and one wine gets you drunk and one wine does something else. And what colour wine you're drinking depends on how you react to it. And it's just those little details
Mhm.
that I love Sanderson. I love, as you can probably tell, because I'm
Yeah.
gushing a little bit. And I'm aware that I'm doing it. I haven't told you anything about the book, but also there's not a lot to tell, because it is the beginning of a 5 story
Uh-huh.
or 5 book story, where each one is about this big.
The first thing I'll mention that I did read in August is I did read Lone Women by Victor LaValle, but I won't talk about it because I will just put in a shameless plug for our Three Girls One Book discussion that we will be having on Saturday, September 28th. So I did read that, but I'm not going to say anything about it. So books I did read. So a couple of months back, when Heather was talking about Emily Henry, and she was reading Emily Henry, I put, like, all of Emily Henry's books, like, on my hold list at the library, and they've all been coming in at the same time, like, all of a sudden. So I read 2 Emily Henry books during the month of August, and I'm in the 3rd one right now, but I read Book Lovers and People We Meet on Vacation. I really liked Book Lovers. That one I thoroughly enjoyed. I loved the conceit of it. Basically, it's like it's if you think of all of every Lifetime movie or Hallmark movie that's a romance where, somebody like goes home for the holidays or whatever to their small town that they're from, and like leaves behind their like big city careerist boyfriend or girlfriend, and like falls in love with the, sweet small town person who, was their childhood sweetheart or whatever. Book Lovers is basically, the idea is, okay, so what happened to that person who got left back in the big city? Like the career person in the big city who just got dumped. Like, what's their life about? And like I
Mm.
just really enjoyed that concept for a book. Like, I just thought that was really fun.
My favorite thing about that book, my favorite thing, is that the main female character is a career woman who doesn't want children, and that is not something that she has to overcome in order to
Exactly.
get her happily ever after. I loved that
Exactly.
about that book.
Exactly. It basically is like actually giving a voice to the person who is always portrayed in the romance as the soulless
Mhm.
career person who doesn't want
Yeah.
kids, who doesn't want, who just wants to like live in a city and like be really devoted to their work, and like, and
So
basically saying like
selfish. Yeah.
there's
Yeah,
no
yeah.
there's nothing wrong with being that person, and
Mhm.
that person still deserves happiness. People We Meet on Vacation was fine. I didn't like it as much. I think my issue with that one was that it's a little too kind of transparently based on When Harry Met Sally. It's sort of like a gender swap to When Harry Met Sally, and it also the main couple in it was one of those books where it's like a romance and you're like, "Okay, but the main couple, like, doesn't work for a reason and probably shouldn't work, and, like, they probably shouldn't be in a relationship because I don't think that it's gonna go well." Like, so that was one where I wasn't quite as into it, but I really liked Book Lovers. The only other book that I read, that I randomly picked up because 'cause I've been meaning to read it for a long time is this book called Into the Magic Shop, which is a nonfiction by this neurosurgeon, and the only reason I picked it up is because somewhat apocryphally, the song Magic Shop by BTS is supposed to be like loosely based on some of the concepts in this book. And the book was like, it was okay. There were some good things about it. Like it's very much about like the brain body connection and how you can train your brain in certain ways to affect your body in a certain way, and to how to train your brain to better deal with stressful situations, or better get through difficult times, or those kinds of things. Those aspects of it, and like the fact that that's all very much supported by research, I liked. Like there was a lot of like good stuff in there about those topics. There's also some stuff that's a little bit too like manifestation for success and that kind of stuff, and like that I was like not as into, but also that has like nothing to do with the BTS song, so I didn't really care. But it was one of those books where it was like, nah, it's fine. Like I took some interesting stuff from it, but honestly, the song is better.
So the two that I'm going to talk about are of the same series, and it's the Lightfall series. So this is the first one, and it's a graphic novel, and this is called The Girl and the Galdurian. And actually, I heard about this book first from Katie Flowers when she used to have the Tarot Channel, and in her monthly favorites, she mentioned this book. So, and Katie is no longer doing tarot content. It's been a while. So you can imagine how long this has been on my TBR. It's anyway, so I finally got around to it and just really, really enjoyed it. And I love when the graphic novels are in color. So there's this pig wizard and his adopted granddaughter, Bia, who
Is
live.
he a wizard that's a pig?
Yes,
Right.
a wizard that's a pig.
Not a wizard of pigs.
So, wizard that is.
I don't know what that would be, but
A wizard whose magic is all pig based or
Yes.
pig related.
That is a good question, honestly. That is a good question. But yes, it is a wizard who is a pig. And yeah, he has this granddaughter, Bia, who's human.
Mm.
And and they are, let's see, keepers of the endless flame. And they live a quiet life. And then that kind of gets uprooted when Bia meets up with this character here. So this is Bia, and she meets up with this character who's a Galdurian. His name is Cad, and it's a race that he's from a race that they thought was like long extinct,
Mm.
but he is searching for Pig Wizard
Mm.
because he believes that Pig Wizard can help him figure out like what happened to his people.
Mm.
So Bia and Cad, go back to find Bia's grandfather, and he's gone. He's gone, missing, and so they go off to find him, and it of course launches into this whole adventure. I think it does a really good job of tackling subjects of anxiety. These characters, she deals a lot with anxiety, and even the way that's visually rendered is just it's really good. It's very artfully rendered, and just like her projecting into the future the worst possible outcomes like all the time, and so grappling with those subject matters, and and the idea of courage, and I just think it's just really artfully done here, so I really enjoyed that. So those are the two that I really enjoyed. And then I mean I've started a few other books at the same time that I've just not finished. So one of them being Lone Women, and we will, yes, be discussing that. I will indeed finish by the time we have our Three Girls One Book. The next category is TV and film. So Heather, What did you watch in August?
So I watched series wise, I watched season 4 of The Umbrella Academy. It was okay. It was, I think Netflix really dropped the ball on season 4 because all the other seasons had been like 8 episodes long, or no, 10 episodes long or something. I can't remember, but more episodes. And this one they did it in like 6 episodes, and it was just all very rushed, and some decisions were made that I was like, I don't really understand why you've done that, and
Mhm.
I'm not sure I'm really comfortable with it. But it was a letdown. It was one of those, like, the first season, and I think this happened. So the first 2 seasons were based on graphic novels by Gerard Way, which is the lead singer of My Chemical Romance,
Mhm.
and then season 3 and season 4 are not, because there's only 2 graphic novels.
Mhm.
And as quite often happens, once the TV series goes off book, if you like, it just it doesn't keep that same momentum, and the story doesn't work in the same way.
Game of Thrones.
Yeah. We're all thinking it. Somebody might as well say it out loud. And
God.
so it's just, and it does, and this does the same thing. I think season 1 was fantastic. It's so weird. It's like these, I don't know if either of you have seen any of them, but it's a like a sci-fi fantasy type series where all of these children around the world are all born on the same day at the same time from women who didn't know they were pregnant until the minute they gave birth, and had like no, like they hadn't been pregnant and they just suddenly gave birth. And all of these kids have special abilities of some kind. And this guy, who is a bit dodgy, and right from the beginning is a bit dodgy, has gone round and adopted as many of these children as he could get his hands on. Literally, that's how they describe it. He could get his hands on, for reasons that become clear as the episodes goes on. And the series starts with them as adults, and he's died. The father has died, and they've all gone home for his funeral. And then stuff happens and they have to save the world. And then the second season, they end up somehow sending themselves back in time to like the 1940s or something. And so the first couple of seasons they're weird, but they're my kind of like fun, good weird.
Mhm.
And then they just start to lose the plot a bit in season 3, and then season 4 just went off the, off the wall. I was like, okay, we're doing that. All right, fine. But
Mhm.
it was fine. I'm glad I watched them all, and I think I'm glad it ended, because I think it is done. I watched 2 films. So I watched. First of all, I watched the first Omen. So this is the story, the Omen with Damien and
Mhm.
with Gregory Peck from the 70s. This is the story of how Damien came to exist in the first place.
Mm.
And it was good. So it was about a nun who had gone off to some convent in the Vatican. She was in she was in Italy. I'm not entirely sure if she was in the Vatican or if she was just in Italy. I don't know. But and she finds out about this plot to birth the son of Satan, the son of the devil, and weird stuff happens. It was good. Both the films I watched suffered from the same problem, but so this one was a good story. There was some weird, scary bits in it, and there was a birthing scene that went on for way too long. But but the problem with a film like that is that the plot of the story is this woman trying to stop the birth of the son of the devil.
Mhm.
But because the second film already exists, going into the film that she fails.
Right.
And so the stakes are a bit like non-existent, because you already know what's going to happen at the end of the film. You don't know exactly how they're going to get there, but ultimately you know how this film is going to end.
Mhm.
And then the other film I watched was Orphan First Kill, which is the prequel to the film Orphan. Have either of you seen that film?
Mm-mm.
Mm.
So the Orphan film, I can't really say too much about it, because the thing with the Orphan film is that it has this huge twist at the end, which is so disturbing and so clever.
Mm.
But the first film, the prequel, if you've already seen The Orphan, you already know that twist, so it can't rely on that anymore. So it has
Mhm.
to tell a slightly different story.
Mhm.
And the story was fine, but it was just a
Mhm.
little bit like, it was a little bit over the top with what was going on, and it didn't really deliver in the same way that the first one did, because it didn't have anything
Mhm.
that it could really. It did that thing where it tried to do like this really shocking twist in the middle, and it really wasn't shocking at all. You saw it coming a mile away. So you're like, okay, that was great. The first one, it was shocking. Like, you
Mhm.
just didn't see it coming at
Mhm.
all. So I would recommend with both films that if you're going to watch them and you've never watched The Omen before and you've never watched Orphan before, start with the newest film,
Mhm.
which is the prequel in both cases, and
Mhm.
watch them in like story order and not release order, because it will be a much better viewing experience, I think, if you do it that way around.
Most of what I watched in August was BTS related content because there was just a ton of BTS related content. So there was Are You Sure, which is a travel show starring two of the members of BTS, occasionally three of the members of BTS. It's absolutely delightful in the way of all BTS travel content where they basically just are charming while doing absolutely nothing. At one point, there's like a 20-minute trip to Walmart to buy a sponge. Like this is what happens in these shows, and yet somehow it is riveting to those of us who love BTS, and to those of us who don't, you would have no interest in this whatsoever. So there was that. Run BTS has come back in the form of Run Jin. So the one member who is out of the military is back doing the like BTS based just variety show. There have been like 4 episodes so far. They're all hysterical and delightful and really great. And then he's also been on on this other show that's actually an actual Korean show called Half Star Hotel on Lost Island, which is basically like he kind of just like joins the cast for a couple of episodes. So I've only watched those episodes, but it's basically a show about trying to set up like a sort of inn on basically a remote island where it's all like be one of the main cast members is a chef that Jen is like really good friends with, and so it's all about like having this like gourmet dining experience on this remote island based off of all foraged food. And so if you ever wanted to see a BTS member put on a wetsuit and dive for abalone, like that's that's what you get from the show. It's really good. It's really actually very enjoyable. So I was watching that. As far as movies go, I watched Furiosa finally. Mad Max Fury Road is like one of my favorite movies. Like it's probably in my top 10 favorite movies of all time. I love that movie. So I was very excited to see Furiosa. I was a little underwhelmed by it, but I kind of feel like maybe the issue was that I didn't go see it in the theater. I watched it just came out on HBO, and so I watched it at home,
Mm.
and you can't get the full impact of the action in those shows watching it on us, or in those movies watching it on a small screen. Like it just doesn't have the same impact. Like I saw Mad Max Fury Road multiple times in the theater because it was just so amazing. And so I think that that might have affected it because the action felt, again, a little underwhelming compared to Fury Road, but again, that might have just been a function of the screen. I think from a story standpoint, like it's a prequel to Fury Road, telling the story of the main female character who in Fury Road was played by Charlize Theron, and like the story is good. I mean, like it's a there's nothing wrong with the story or anything like that. I think I couldn't get as excited about it, and I feel like it just is again a function of how I watched it, maybe more than
Mm.
anything else. So, not that I didn't enjoy it. It just had a lot to live up to because, like I said, Fury Road is like one of my favorite movies. So,
So I also watched Are You Sure? I mean,
Mhm.
it's still ongoing, but we've caught up on episodes, Matt and I. And yeah, it's just delight. It was such a delight. And I mean, I bought Twinkies because of this show. I haven't had a Twinkie in decades, plural, plural. But watching JK just hoover down Twinkie after
Twinkies.
Twinkie because he just
Mhm,
loves them so much, I'm just like,
mhm,
okay,
mhm.
grocery store trip to buy some Twinkies.
Yeah.
Um,
I have a story about that too, by the way, because I
oh,
also bought Twinkies as a result of watching that show, and then I had my local army friend over, to watch one of the episodes with me because she doesn't have Disney Plus, so she came over to my house. She's come over a couple times now to watch the show with me, and she said she would bring dessert that, because we were gonna order food and watch the show, and she brought Twinkies.
the number of Twinkies I have consumed just because of this show is ridiculous.
And
I
it
think
hadn't
I've
happened
eaten
in decades.
I think I've eaten 3 Twinkies in my entire life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I seriously probably hadn't had a Twinkie since, like, the '90s. I'm
Right.
seriously, like, it
Exactly.
had been that long since I had a Twinkie, so
Seriously.
and now I've
And
had, like, I don't even know, like, 6 in the
I've
past
had
week.
like a whole, like Matt and I have shared the box Twinkies,
Yeah.
but yeah, more than I feel like I have ever consumed. Like it's ridiculous. So
But it's
yeah,
fine because if you buy them and you don't eat them, you can just eat them in 5 years when you finally
right.
recover because they'll be okay.
It's so true. You're absolutely right. And then Matt and I also bought this sweatshirt because it's similar to the hoodie that V was wearing, and we just both loved it so much. But of course, that one was, I mean, because they filmed this last summer,
Mhm,
before JK and Jimin were going to go into the military, which is required in South
mhm,
Korea.
mhm,
So, so the hoodie was probably not going to be in stock anyway, but we ended up getting like a very similarly designed sweatshirt just because this show. I mean, this show is really just like not the greatest influence when it comes to eating and when it comes to buying things because they're just constantly eating and like
mhm,
Matt, I don't know how much ramen he's eaten as a result of watching them eat ramen. I would say give it a shot if you're just in the mood to unwind and
mhm, and just
watch
watch
some
the BTS members stuff their faces with
stuff
food
their
was really
Ramen
faces.
and Twinkies, apparently.
I also watched Furiosa as well,
Oh, you
and
did?
I did, I did. Matt and I did.
Mhm,
I was also very underwhelmed.
mm,
Um, I don't know if it was the function of, small screen versus
mhm,
large screen. I admittedly felt kind of bored throughout parts,
mm,
and Matt said that he also felt like it kinda dragged a bit.
mm,
I mean, not that the story itself the story itself was fine, as far as prequels go, but I don't know if it was, like, pacing or just, like, yeah, the momentum of and again, it does have huge shoes to fill. I
mhm,
mean, because
mhm,
Fury Road was just a masterpiece.
mhm,
This by comparison, I was ready to be done,
mhm,
it was kind of one of those things where I'm like, "Okay, yeah,
mhm,
just" We also went to see Deadpool
mm, mhm,
3. That was, entertaining. It is what you would expect Deadpool to be, very
mm,
over the top. I think that, it's funny. I would say the highlight or like, which I'm sure people have seen if they've opened up social media, but like the opening credits, um, the opening dance credits, I'll just leave it at that, not to spoil anything, but like that was probably like one of the highlights for me. And like the rest is fine. I think sometimes Deadpool tries a little too hard to be that, funny, raunchy, kind of over the top. And so sometimes I'm just kind of like, okay, let's move it along. Got it. We got it. But otherwise it's it was
It's
fine.
kind of like I feel like I don't know, Deadpool is the first film, it was funny.
Yeah,
mhm,
Deadpool was funny. The
mhm,
exactly.
second film, it was funny, but it was a bit less funny because alright, it's the same shtick now, isn't
Yeah,
it? And
yeah,
so I imagine by the third film, if you're feeling like that by the second film, by the third film, you're like, "Okay, but
yeah.
this is the
It
same
is.
thing." It's also just Ryan Reynolds being Ryan Reynolds,
Yeah,
but in a suit.
right,
yes,
exactly,
yes.
exactly.
And then I also watched this Korean movie called Exuma, which was very popular in South Korea. Very, very popular. There's just a lot of buzz about it, a lot of critical acclaim. And I was like dying to watch it. And finally it came out for rent. So I rented it. And it basically like it's about like Korean shamanism and their like disturbed graves, like evil spirits, those kind of the tropes that you would imagine for that kind of like paranormal type film.
Mhm,
And I, I don't know. Maybe I'm just in a mood. Like I was just like, meh. And there were certain parts where I'm like, I just maybe I'm tired. I'm not quite getting the connection of this subplot within this. And it took me a little bit, a little bit more than I wanted to. My brain really wanted to work at. I guess I had too high of expectations,
Mm.
and yeah, I was disappointed. I suppose it wasn't
mm.
like a terrible movie, but I don't know. Heather, if you do end up watching it, you'll have to let me know what you think.
Yeah, I will. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I will.
So on to our wild card category where we just talk about general life updates and other things that we've been up to. So Heather, August.
I didn't really do very much in August. I bought some colouring books and some colouring pencils. So I did a bit of colouring in August. Not very much. One picture in an entire three colouring books. I bought these. Oh, I should have brought them over.
I
Oh, hang on.
know.
They're all quite similar, but I got these like they're only small, like printed by Amazon, but
That one.
creepy kawaii. It's so cute. So I did.
Oh,
The
that's
unicorn.
adorable.
Oh my god! So that's
Adorable.
literally all I've done, and then I've started. Oh look, I dropped my pencil and everything. I've started colouring in a vampire.
Cute.
I might
I
have to.
know.
I've seen this. I don't. And that even might be in my my favorited list. I'll have to look.
Yeah. No, like you've got. I won't show that one because it's a spider, but they've got like creepy girl and stuff. I'm like, I'm obsessed with this. And then I also I started a booktube channel in August, the end of August. So that I've been making videos and stuff. But also I wanted some kind of creative outlet where I could learn some stuff as well. So I have been like I downloaded a new editing software, DaVinci Resolve, because it's free, but it does so much more than iMovie. So I've been like watching videos about how to use it to its potential and how to add B-roll and all of like the kind of fancy editing that people do and stuff. So I've been using it as a way to talk about books, but also like to learn new skills and play around creatively and stuff as well. So that's been fun so far. See how long it lasts, because I have attention span issues, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, so and other than that, it's been a really, really stressful month, so I've not done very much, but other than hibernate and colour things in.
Understandable. So Heather's YouTube channel is called Bookish Downtime, and we'll leave the link in the description box.
I did not have a ton going on in August. It was a very, very relaxed month, trying to relax after the madness of summer and having so much family in town and all that kind of stuff. I did have a couple of more close family friends came into town just last week. I had kind of an interesting childhood. After my parents got divorced, my mom was kind of poor, and so my mom and my sister and I shared a house with another couple. Like we actually had roommates. We lived with them for like 5 years, and so as you can imagine, they're very, very close friends of the family, and they drove through Minnesota on their way out east for a different event and stayed at my parents' house for a couple of days. And I hadn't seen them in a long time, and it was really, really fun to see them. So that was really cool. Like I said, just very close family friends that I literally grew up living with them from the ages of like 8 to 13. So they're they're very, very close with our family, and it was great to see them. But aside from that, it was a pretty low key month, catching up on like medical appointments and like all the stuff that I didn't get done over the summer while everything else was going on, just trying to like clean my house, those kinds of things. Like it's been a much more low key month for me.
In early August, there was the DC Fountain Pen Show, which I believe is like the largest fountain pen show in the nation. So yeah. So Matt and I bought tickets beforehand, and we decided to go. I did make a couple purchases. One being this Twisby pen, which is a really pretty cover or color rather. And I also bought a glass dip pen, which I can't show because it already broke, and I had to take it. Yeah, luckily it's under warranty. So
Okay.
I sent it in for repair, and yeah, I should be getting it back, but they're delicate. So I bought this pen and a glass dip pen, and then Matt, who knows absolutely nothing about fountain pens, decided to buy a pen that's fancier than the two of mine put together, because that's how he rolls. And he bought some inks, and now he is, God's help me, down the fountain pen rabbit hole. He wants to buy more.
I love how Matt just like follows you down your stuff. Like, You started doll collecting and now Matt has got dolls of his own. You started fountain pens and now Matt has
Yeah,
got I
exactly.
just love how he's just like, "Where you going, Julie? Can I come?"
Yeah,
It's
love
really
him.
endearing. It's a really
It
endearing
is.
quality.
It actually is because he's
Yeah.
so open to everything.
He has very good taste because the pen that he picked out is a very I mean, if it were me with that money to spend,
Yes.
I would be buying something similar to what he bought, so I
Yeah.
approve of his taste,
And it
so
was on sale,
mhm.
but I just found it funny that that was his very first fountain pen, and it cost more than, like, both of mine put together, and he knew nothing about fountain pens. His tastes are quite refined already.
Yeah.
We did have family over again for, an extended kind of weekend, so my niece came over along with, her nana and pa, so my in-laws. My mother-in-law has this tradition where for each grandchild's 12th birthday, she and Carl, my father-in-law, take that one kid on a solo trip. I guess it's like a bonding trip or whatever. So it was Lydia's turn, and she, wanted to come see Uncle Matt and Aunt Julie. So
Mhm.
they came here and hung out for some days. And then we had actually a birthday lunch here later on in the month for a friend of mine. So it was that was fine. We just got takeout. We just got some sushi and, a birthday cake for her. And yeah, just had like a lovely kind of low key birthday celebration for her. So it was quite a bit of socializing for me. And I believe that is it. So thank you for watching. And so we have our next live. It will be on my channel, and that will be September 21st.
Mhm.
And then, once again, as a reminder, the Three Girls, One Book will be the following Saturday on September 28th. And that is for the novel Lone Women.
Mhm.
So hopefully you can join us for both of those. So until the next time, take care.